Welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit, everyone. Today is day 3, and we've got an amazing program in store. The registrations for this summit are at about 15,000 and climbing. We expect to get to about 20,000 people, so we have a very large listening audience. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Coordinating Director for Humanities Team, and I'm one of your hosts for the summit. We're broadcasting live each day with at least 2 programs, and we're talking about how we can come fully alive as part of the divine. Many people we know share that life has become stale, methodical, and candidly worse. And as we know, life is a gift. There is so much more we can experience. This is what the Living in Oneness Summit is about, opening the door so we can receive our gifts. Please relax and get comfortable. This hour is going to go so fast, I promise you. We could easily spend a couple of hours with these special guests. Want you to really enjoy every minute of it, as I know I will. Now, I'd like to introduce our special guests for the hour. You are going to love them. They're just some of my favorite people in the whole world. Don Miguel Ruiz and his son, Don Jose Ruiz. I'm going to introduce one at a time. First, Don Miguel Ruiz was born in a family of healers and raised in rural Mexico by a healer mother and a shaman grandfather. The family anticipated that Miguel would embrace their centuries-old legacy of healing and teaching and carry forward the esoteric Toltec knowledge. Instead, distracted by modern life, Miguel chose to attend medical school and become a surgeon. A near-death experience changed his life. Stunned by the experience, he began an intensive practice of self-inquiry. He devoted himself to the mastery of the ancient ancestral wisdom, studying earnestly with his mother and completing an apprenticeship with a powerful shaman in the Mexican desert. In the tradition of the Toltecs, a nagual guides an individual to personal freedom. Don Miguel is a nagual from the Eagle Knight lineage and is dedicated to sharing his knowledge of the teachings of the ancient Toltecs. He is the author of the 4 Agreements, the Mastery of Love, the 4 Agreements, and the 4 Agreements Companion Book. And Don Miguel, welcome to the call. I'm going to introduce Don Jose next. Okay, and Don Jose Ruiz, like his father, combining new insights with ancient wisdom, Don Jose Ruiz is dedicating his life to sharing the ancient Toltec wisdom by translating it into practical, everyday life concepts that promote transformation through truth, love, and common sense. He collaborated with his father, Don Miguel Ruiz, on a new book that offers a fresh perspective on the 4 Agreements and a powerful new agreement for transforming our lives into our personal heaven, the 5th Agreement. The 5th Agreement takes us to a deeper level of awareness of the power of the self and returns us to the authenticity we were born with. In this compelling sequel to the 4 Agreements, we are reminded of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves, the freedom to be who we really are. And welcome to the program, Don Miguel and Don Jose Ruiz. Great to have you with us.
Oh, it's a great honor to be back in your show, Stephen, and very honored to be participating in these seminars.
Well, fabulous. Gosh, it's always such a treat to have you all with us. When we talk about living in oneness, I want to share, I just always experience that when I'm with you all, and you all have so much wisdom to share. So I'm so looking forward to this program. Don Jose, let's start with you. I thought we could start on a personal level with a discussion of oneness. I know you've had many experiences in oneness, including things that caused you to make the decisions that you've made to be the healer and teacher that you are. Before we get into the books, can you just share a little bit about oneness in your own life, maybe, some of the personal experiences that you've had?
Yes, the oneness experience that I really had, is my grandma telling me one time. She said, Jose, the true healer is the one that can heal itself from its own life, from its own beliefs, from its own poison. And if you don't heal that, you will never be in oneness, because you will never be in oneness within yourself. You'll never be at peace with yourself. So if you're not at peace with yourself, how can you be at peace with other people? So in that moment, I started noticing, like my father tells about the storyteller, I was telling my story, and it was very negative one. The program that's being delivered, that it's okay to suffer, that it's, that we were born to suffer, that we're not perfect. Everything that I used to doubt myself, to put myself less than. And then I noticed, that's not oneness, because it doesn't feel good with me. In that moment, I hear my grandma's words, like a powerful, impeccable thoughts that came through my head and said, if you really want to take the action to serve, you have to start serving yourself. And many people will say that that's selfish what you're doing, but no, it's not selfish, because when you serve yourself, you can give to others, because this is how the waterfall starts pouring. And one of the beautiful things is to have the realization that we have in our act, in our power of love, we have the decision to either be positive or be negative in our life. So if we begin being negative, of course that's not oneness. That's like a cancer eating, the union, that when you are, serving with positivity in your thinking, everything, that becomes, a oneness, because you're ready to heal. And this is when my grandma says, you begin healing with yourself and then continue with others. And the healing is just, having that light just glowing out of you, no matter what's happening in life, in the most difficult times or, or in the easy times. That difficult times is where we are a test, to really serve, to really, put our effort, our intent, and our willingness to really become a union. And when you live this way, then, oh my God, everything you have to offer is just from the heart.
Yeah. Boy, I know Don Miguel is on the phone, too. We'll go to you here in just 1 second, Don Miguel. But I just want to share one of the things that you said, Don Jose. We have to serve ourselves first. And that's such a critical thing. And this is the third day of the Living in Oneness Summit. And this has come up again and again that, so often many of us, including, all of this group that would be part of this summit, might be considered light workers. And we care about the planet, and we're involved in all of these activities in our home and our communities and our country and in the world. And sometimes we can just run ourselves dog-tired and not take good enough care of ourselves. And, of course, then we get in trouble, don't we? Because if we got to take care of ourselves first if we're gonna really be of value out in the world.
Exactly. We cannot give what we don't have. And if we pretend to have it and giving it, then, it's just like the blind following the blind. And with this awareness, you can really, be honest with yourself, and that will make a huge difference. Because when you recharge, you go again, and it's in all different layers, because we never know where we're going to be at service. The thing is just doing the action, and that's the honor right there.
Yes, and Don Miguel, I know you're with us. Welcome to the program. I'm sorry you missed your generous introduction here.
Well, it's a great pleasure, and I'm sorry to be a little late, but I'm here, and let's keep going.
Great. Well, it's so wonderful to have you with us, Don Miguel. I've had the opportunity to spend some personal time with Don Miguel, and as you can hear in his voice, I just feel like he's an embodiment of oneness. Don Miguel, we shared a little earlier that it might be kind of fun to share personal experiences about oneness. So we're going to, of course, be talking about the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement, but before we do, I know there was a near-death experience in your life that was part of what caused you to take the journey that you have, and then other oneness experiences. And would it be okay to talk about some of those things?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I would. The near-death experience you've shared, I've heard you share how that just completely transformed your life, what that felt like, what messages you got, and then how that caused you to become the healer and teacher that you are today. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, what I can see that in being very close to death and going into that great experience is what I call an encounter with the truth, which is what really exists, the real thing that is extremely difficult to put it in words, because there's nothing like a be there and have the experience. And what I realized at that moment is that the truth is extremely simple. It's just like a binary system. It is and it's not. And if we remember the classes of physics, we understand that matter only can be moved if a force moves matter. And if matter is in movement, only can be stopped if a force stops matter, but matter by itself cannot move. Well, the force that moves matter is life, and life moves everything. Then this is the duality, life and matter. Matter cannot move by itself, it needs that force. Now, matter is being created by life and will end, which means that everything that is created has an end. But what creates matter, what creates everything that exists, cannot be destroyed. And we see also that in science, when we understand that energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. Then when you see with this point of view, we see that there's only one being, and is alive. And that being is made by matter and is moved by life. Then when I see my own physical body, I see that my body is made by matter. And the space that occupies matter is very little, but the force that moves is so big that it was so easy for me to understand that I am not really matter. I am the force that moves matter, and matter was really created by me. And it's the same in everything that exists, in every other human, in animals, in plants, in everything really. Then when we shift that point of view and we see everything with the point of view of life, we can see that in reality, the only thing that really exists is life. And it moves everything. That is true. Everyone, everything is one. But we don't have the awareness. And I also find out that matter reflects life. That is really manifest as light. Light is the messenger of life. And in that reflection, it creates a virtual reality, which is our mind. And matter perceives that reflection. It perceives that mind. And in that reflection, the entire reality is recreated, and we perceive a virtual reality, which is our mind. I also understood at that moment that we use the word to create a story to explain that virtual reality. And this is how we create our personal reality. A whole story, so beautiful, so wonderful, but it's a copy of the truth. And in that story, we create a main character, which is what we believe we are. This is how I create Miguel, which is an image, and the whole story is about Miguel. Miguel is the main character, that whatever happens in everywhere is being perceived, and is Miguel the one who created that story. But I also realize that it's true for everybody around me. Everybody is reflecting light, is feeling the mind, they create their own story, and they create the main character of that story, which is what they believe they are. They will perceive everything with the point of view of the main character, which is what we believe we are. And we don't have the awareness of what we really are. And this is why we pray to God. We are looking for knowledge, for answers. We want to understand everything. But it's kind of obvious when you change the point of view with the point of view of the one who created everything, which is life itself. You know, in that way, you really can understand that the entire humanity is only one living being, and we are moved by the same force. But each one of us, we have our own perceptions We create our own reality, and we interact so beautifully with one another through knowledge, through our reason, through the attention. Then it's not a fantasy to talk about oneness, because this is the reality, it's the truth. We are really one. And for us to understand that, we need to evolve. We need to understand first what we really are and accept ourselves just the way we are. Then at that point, you may understand that you create your own story, you create the main character, which is what you believe you are. But also with that awareness, you can see that whatever you do will affect everything that exists. And everything that exists will affect you. Because in that reality, we can see there's only one living being, and it's alive.
Wow. So profound and beautifully stated that your discussion of physics was, felt like a spiritual experience. And that's what I so enjoy about you, Don Miguel, and your family, is the wisdom is so there, and also just the way you express it. Before we go to the books, which have incredible wisdom for living in oneness, I thought I'd ask both of you about your personal practices, meditations or prayers, or whatever your personal practices are for when just waking in the morning through the end of the day, the things that you do that keep you in the optimal state of oneness that you are in.
Okay, Jose?
Well, one thing that I love to do is art. And Toltec is an artist, but it's kind of interesting because I just love to do art. Wake up, doing art in the iPads, in the computers, making art with music, and especially listening to somebody else's or seeing somebody else's art just fulfills me. Especially going to a music concert, you go to see your favorite band, and you see other people who see the same band, and you just enjoy the moment. That's one of the beautiful things. And when I was younger, I used to, meditate a lot, and then my dad said to me, okay, that's enough meditation, not with the eyes closed. It's time to meditate with eyes open. And it's one of the beautiful things that I really love to do, is meditate with eyes open. Wherever you go, you find that peacefulness. And then that peacefulness you can put into your art that gets you inspired. So that's what I love to do. I love getting inspired to create.
I love that. And I suspect, Don Jose, you're speaking to the whole millennial audience, when you talk about a focus on art and music and eyes open. So beautiful. Thank you for that. And Don Miguel?
Well, since I wake up, and even before, I live my life with gratitude. I'm so grateful just to be in my physical body. I'm so grateful just to perceive everything around me. And in that way, I can easily shift that gratitude into generosity. Then I receive and I give. I give and I receive. In other words, I can say that I live my life in love, because in my point of view, love is nothing but an equilibrium between gratitude and generosity. Then with my gratitude, I really enjoy every single moment of my life, the most that I can. And I accept the reality just the way it is, beginning with my own physical body, of course. Then I'm so grateful to be in my body. And I know that my body has all those physical problems. I have a heart attack, I have a heart transplant. My body is living with certain kind of physical pain. But, I'm so grateful. My gratitude for being in my body is so big that, like Jose says, most of the time, I see that my body is really the love of my life. And I will do whatever is necessary to keep my life, my body, in the best shape that I can, give my body all the comfort that it deserves, and really be grateful with everything that is sharing and giving to me, whatever my body is needed. Then to live in gratitude is also to respect everything just the way it is, to respect nature, to respect humanity, to respect the neighbors, to respect my children, and mainly to respect the one who created everything that exists, which is life.
Wow. Let's just breathe into that for a moment. That was truly profound, Don Miguel, and I want to share also, just knowing you as I do feel all of those things that you shared as your practice. I experience that when I'm with you, and that's a rare gift to have a process that allows you to live in this place of, as you described, gratitude and generosity and respect and receiving and giving and receiving and loving, loving, really. And I do experience that when I'm with you. I can feel that even now on the phone. And I suspect I'm speaking for all the listeners. Well, let's go into a discussion of your books, because your books, of course, bring in these really incredibly valuable tools for living in oneness. Maybe we can go through the first, the 4 agreements, and the 5th, and we've got about 38 minutes. I wish we had a couple hours instead of an hour. There's so much we can get to, but let's go through these agreements, which are these spiritual tools for living in oneness, living in love, living in our personal heaven, as you all sometimes describe, and then we can get back to oneness and just how you all spill it over on your significant other or partner and kids and family and workplace and leadership, because you're both leaders out in the world. That'll be a great discussion, too. So there's a lot of ground to cover, but it's sure going to be a lot of fun. Maybe we could first go to this first agreement, to be impeccable with your word.
Well, we can say that these 4 agreements is the introduction of a way of life that is not new, it's very old. And the way of life is the way of life of the artist, because Toltec means artist. And in that way, we can see how simple is life and that we complicate everything. We create so many agreements in our life that create all those traumas in our life, and we can say, our own personal hell. Well, with these little 4 agreements is a return to our authenticity, to be what we really are. And the first, be impeccable with the word, we can see that we use the word in order to create a story in the one we live. And if we're impeccable with the word, we can create the most wonderful heaven for us just by creating what is in our imagination and manifest it. That we can see that our happiness will depend in that first agreement, to be impeccable with our word. Don't take anything personally. It's a big support for the first agreement. When we create our story, we are the main character of our story, but we populate the story with many secondary characters, which is everyone that we know, but we only know what we believe about them. We really don't know the secondary characters. And when in their story, we are only secondary characters, and they really don't know us. They only know what they believe about us. Then when we understand that point, we understand also why we shouldn't take anything personally, because whatever they do or say is referring really to the secondary characters of their story who represent us, and vice versa. Whatever we say or do to somebody else, they're really referring to the secondary character who live in our story, because we really don't know them the way we think we do. Anyway, that gives us immunity in the interaction that we have with everyone around us. And when we love them, when we have respect, we have that peace in that interaction. The third one is don't make assumptions. It's about the way that the voice of knowledge is speaking in our mind. All the thoughts that we have, that we make the assumption that what we believe is true, is right. And that's the reason why we believe that everybody else is wrong. Well, the big main problem is that we believe what we think. We believe ourselves. And this is one of the most problems that we have, because we agree that we're not good enough, we're not intelligent enough, we are not beautiful enough, and we believe our own lies. Then when we don't make assumptions that give us immunity in the interaction that we have with ourselves, that the fourth one, which is my favorite one, is always do your best. You know, we have lots of ideas in our mind. Our imagination is so powerful. But if we don't take action in those ideas, all those ideas will dissipate and never will be manifested. When we do our best, we manifest the ideas that we have, and we make it real. And this is how we create all the civilizations that exist in this planet Earth, and everything that we know, including computers, planes, etc., etc. Everything first exists in our mind, and with our action, we manifest it. And this is how humanity has been evolving during all those millenniums. And the fifth agreement is be skeptical, but learn to listen. And I think Jose has a lot to say about this one.
Thank you, and thank you for taking us through those 4 agreements. And let me just share with listeners the 4 agreements. If you haven't read the book, it is magnificent. And as we talk about the theme of this summit, the Living in Oneness Summit, may I say that the spiritual tools in this book are just fabulous for helping us to really come into a place of oneness. Don Jose, yes, would love to hear now about the 5th agreement.
You know, when my father gave me a book for read, and I have to be, honest, the first book that I ever read completely was the 4 agreements. And when I flipped through it, I was saying, oh, this is, I know this information. And my dad goes, of course you know it. Everyone knows it. And said, these agreements look so simple. And then I tried applying them, and I noticed how program I had created my life, how difficult I had created my life, because I tried to do these agreements, and they were not simple at all, Be impeccable with the words, don't take anything personal, not make assumptions. And I see those 3 of them, were ruling my life in a negative way when I was, feeding it negative. But when I was aware of them, I said, oh my God, I have the belief system, that is like a parasite giving up of the inspiration out of me. And I said to my dad, Father, how can I take the action? And he was in the hospital when he told me this information. He was in coma, I didn't know he was going to live and die. He said, son, I just want you to be skeptical. And the best way to say thank you to me is by taking this action and making your life, a masterpiece of art, especially in the difficult times. I want you to, really trust in you. And this is the best way you can say thank you to me, son. So he went to a 9-day coma. And in that moment, I went to get some angel training classes that he used to teach like 20 years ago, that he said to everybody that, I feel like I'm talking to a wall. So I began, listening to that, learning from that. And then, it got me one point. My dad gave me the tool, be skeptical. And then that's what it was all about, to learn to listen from my intuition, from my, from my gut. And because when we're skeptical of our negativity, saying, I'm not perfect, I cannot change, oh, this is so difficult, I can never do it. And agreeing to that, is like not changing. But the moment that I was skeptical to my own negativity, then I had a challenge. Then I knew what to break, because I was seeing how I doubted myself to not take action, saying it was difficult to not take action because if I don't take action, it's never going to happen. So I noticed, that in one way we talk, and that tomorrow never comes, that moment never comes because we don't take the action. And of course, everybody says, it's so difficult, you cannot change. And, in that moment I say, I don't believe that. I don't believe myself. I don't believe my negativity. It's time to be skeptical with the 4th agreement. Doing the best is all I can do. So if I don't judge myself, nobody else can judge me. And the moment of peace came in, but it was the moment, that I started, questioning most of the things that I came to my automatic, that I'm not good enough, that I wasn't born to, to do the things that I love to do. And I say how little the program is put into our mind that we don't even have idea. So the moment that I had idea is when the moment I had the awareness that I wasn't living, the life I wanted to live. The moment that I knew I was sacrificing everything I wanted to do and I wasn't doing it. The moment came when I said, okay, it's time to step up for the meaning of my life. And the meaning of my life is to take care of Jose, because I know what makes Jose happy and I know what makes Jose suffer. And how do I know this? Is because I am Jose. And from this point on, I was beginning to be at service. Now it's no longer doing the first agreement, just speaking impeccably. Now it's thinking impeccably. And when you think impeccably, when you think about something negative, it doesn't sit good. So you're skeptical to it. The moment you think impeccably, every time you're going to do an ill intent, you stop yourself because it doesn't feel good to you. So in that moment, the fifth agreement really helps us to release that language is being spoken all over the world, and that's negativity, is to release from the language and bring back the positive language to speak it in our everyday life. And when we start to speak our everyday life, what happens? Doubts, We question ourselves, oh, this cannot be weapon. The moment you really say to you, when something comes up, something self-sabotaging, because this is what some things I really saw in life, is the artist creates such beauty, and the moment that he feels hurt or in pain, he sabotages his own beauty and makes a martyr, and the victim, it's born, and then it's more stuff, more victimization, more, poor me, and more, it doesn't change. And I remember when I was a kid, and I entered my first ceremony with the adults, and it was an elder council, and the only one who could speak was the one holding the feathered stick with the red leather around it. And everyone who spoke was telling a story of suffering, and at one point it sounded that they were competing with one another, who had the most suffering stories, until that came to me. I was like 11 years old, and I really didn't, understand suffering, but in my little head, it meant that in order to be an adult, you have to have suffering in your life. And that's a little seed that's been put into many kids, not just me, and I grow. So for me personally, the fifth agreement, being skeptical, helped me release from all those moments, because it's now time for action. Because I lived the four agreements, now how am I going to apply them? And when we apply them, it's not we apply them like everybody else does. We apply them in our own way. My brother says in his book, sometimes we make the four agreements and we turn them into the four conditions. And it's totally blind faith, because we're not living it, because we're not feeling it from within. But the moment that you feel it from within, you know that you cannot lie to yourself. It's no longer blind faith, because now it's completely faith. And faith is believing 100% in you. And when we believe in us, in our creation, in our art studio, in our mind, if we're starting to produce something that's negative, it doesn't feel good to us. It won't feel good to us if we let it out. So at that moment, it becomes a responsibility, that becomes a social responsibility, and it becomes an act of service. So the fifth agreement is like to say, it's the graduation for the Toltec. It's when we're ready to serve. It's ready to pass the torch. And that is what we're here for. And we all have our individual dreams to break free from. We all have our individual suffering, because something that may cause me pain, it doesn't cause you pain. But it causes somebody else's pain, doesn't cause nobody pain. But the moment that we are honest with ourselves, that's the freedom right there. That's like taking away the power of the lie. Because a lie is something that wants to just, wants to bribe you. If you don't do this, I will say everything. I will tell you what you're not being honest for. And that becomes like a blackmail. But the moment that you say you're honest, you free yourself from the blackmail, from the lies. And it becomes, a beautiful piece. So in life, when people judge us, they're just judging themselves. When people, make negative assumption to us, it's really because it's coming from them. And it's one thing that I really learned, when people are in pain, they say things they do not mean. But when you are personally, taking care of your half, and you see a person speaking like that, they're just asking for help in the best way they can. And when a little kid asks for help or wants something, it makes a tantrum. It makes a tantrum, makes all these dramas to look at me to get attention. But all the little kids just want attention. So the moment that you begin to witness your own creation, your own virtual reality. That's when you take the responsibility and you can change your life. But if you don't take that responsibility and you wait for somebody else to change it, it's not going to happen. That's why the fifth agreement for me is very, very full of gratitude, because it's like saying to my father, how can I repay you for everything, you've given to me? Teach me. And he said, it's easy, my son. Just help me to change the world. And I go, hold on a minute, Papa. I don't want to have that responsibility. He says, no, don't be silly, son. Help me to change your own world. Every time you have suffering, every time you have problems, I want you to really respect yourself and think impeccably. And when you resolve it, that's the best way you can say thank you, and I don't even have to know. And when he said that, it's like a chef, who creates all these beautiful meals, gives them into the tables in the restaurants, and people never see his face. He's just happy just to create because he's doing it for him. And the moment that we start being skeptical of our own negativity, we're not doing it for anybody else. We're doing it for us. But it comes to the point where we're saying in the earlier of the program, we cannot give what we don't have. So the moment where you're honest and you know what you have, you know what you are, this is the sun, that's ready to shine. And we can say it in many different expressions. But the best way is how you understand yourself. It's like one time one of my friends came to me and said, Jose, your words, that they inspire me. Can I be your apprentice? Will you be my teacher? And I responded humbly, no, my friend. And I do this out of respect, because if I'm your teacher, I'm going to teach you to be me. And you'll resist this one day. You have to learn to be you. That there's so many good fruits that the trees give in life. And that fruit is the expression of how we overcome our own negativity. Like my father, overcame his negativity by making these 4 agreements, because he was really honest with himself, and that's what creates a mirror. And when you look into the mirror, man, you cannot lie to yourself. You can pretend to lie, but you cannot lie. And one of the best gifts my father gave to me, that is all based on the 5th agreement, when I was 16 years old, he gave me this birthday gift. And I thought it was like the new Nintendo game, because they were pretty big at that time. But no, I opened it, and it was a picture of himself, very serious. And he said to me, whenever you do something negative, I don't have to know, son. You will just look into that picture and you will know. That was my 16-year birthday gift. And, I did something negative the next following day, and I saw that picture and I turned it around. And then even my friends come in and they have to turn that picture around. But later in life, I know that what he gave to me, that birthday present he gave to me, was my own consciousness. That picture had became my own face. And that's the consciousness that was, clear, ready to serve, ready to change life. And that's where gratitude happens. The 5th agreement, to be skeptical, but to learn to listen, is to really listen to the real you, beyond words, beyond stories. That's that seed, that made us human, that make us have this emotion, that make us be real. And with this reality, we can be honest, and, we're not going to be afraid of ourselves. And this, drops the whole, like the Toltecs say, the human form. We drop what we believe we were. Now we just are grateful to be alive. Like I love what thing my father says, he says, I don't really know what I am. In science, I can become energy. In religion, I become light. But I really don't know what I am. The only thing I know is that I am alive. And one thing that he really reflects to us, is his will. And, seeing that in action, and then going to take action in myself. The moment I start lying to myself, or, I be skeptical to that. The moment I try to be sabotaging myself, I become skeptical to that, because that's how it feels to break the program. And one thing that my grandma says, she says, we don't stop until the day we go home. Because until the day we go home, we're service to the human body. And the human body is the love of our life. And she said, just imagine that you have a death experience and you are up in the clouds in heaven. And all of a sudden the big boss comes, the creator comes to you and says, it's not your time to be here yet. I only bring you here so you can experience and feel this. But you're going to come back wherever you come from. But when you wake up, you'll find something very different. You will wake up with my body. So how you treat yourself is how you're treating me. And not only that, you'll see everybody else has my body. So how you're treating them is how you treat me. And from this point on, she said, you can totally understand what he said and says, Father, forgive them. They do not know what they do. And when I woke up, I said, oh my God, Father, forgive me. I didn't know what I did. And that's the most powerful thing, to forgive ourselves. Because, we can become the most powerful victim, and we believe our stories. But the moment that we become skeptical to that, is really putting that to rest. And that really teaches us something, to never disrespect ourselves again. And this is what the fifth agreement brings, to fully respect yourself as life.
Oh, beautiful. I want to actually go deeper into this whole aspect of self-sabotage, because I know so many people are challenged by this. I also want to make sure we get a little time to talk about the spilling oneness over on our significant other and our children and in the workplace, because increasingly spiritually conscious workplaces are emerging, and then also leadership. So we've got about 15 minutes left, a lot to cover. But before we get to these things, I wanted to share a lot of feedback has come in. There are a number of healers on the line, and they've said, where can I learn these skills that Don Miguel and Don Jose are talking about? If you go to the livinginone.com site, that's the site for the summit, down at the bottom of livinginone.com, you'll see this program and replay page. It's the third one over. Go ahead and click on that. Then over on the right margin, you'll see May 9th, and you'll see Don Miguel and Don Jose. Go to their pages, and you'll see their a special offer over on the right side. They have generously created special offers and one-on-one programs and retreats where they teach these skills. So for those of you who are healers who've been reaching out to us here during the program, go check that out. You'll see some generous discounts that they're offering on their lessons and retreats. If we can come back here just and cover briefly some of these things. First, the self-sabotage. Don Jose, you brought that up a number of times as you talked just about even your own personal life. We all know, this is something, there's always that day where you wake up and say, oh, am I doing the right thing, or am I the right person, or whatever. Just suggestions you all have for addressing self-sabotage, and then we'll turn to these questions about oneness in these other parts of our life.
Yes, one of the experiences that I had when I was like 10 or 11 years old was an out-of-body experience. And then, I had a dream that I was floating and I was stuck in my body, and then I floated out and I saw myself sleeping. Well, that out-of-body experience didn't help me for anything in my life. The real out-of-body experience, that really helps me is to look at myself every day, every moment of my life. What am I doing? What actions am I doing? And, in really looking at that, I can see if I'm supporting the sabotage part of me, or I'm being skeptical to that part of the sabotage of me. And of course, when I feel uncomfortable, I know that I have to get comfortable in the uncomfortableness, in the discomfort. I know that moment's going to end soon. That if I give in just a little bit in the discomfort, just to surrender, I'm giving into a long term of suffering. In that moment, when we get comfortable in discomfort, it's like having an out-of-body experience, and you're witnessing yourself, and you see your body like if it wasn't your body, but you're there as service. And we have so much programming ourselves that we are automatically sabotaging ourselves even without knowing. That the moment that we're present, we begin witnessing, is become, like the Toltecs say, we begin to stalk like the jaguar. We begin to fly like the eagle around us. We begin to really feel ourselves, feel our emotion, that it all comes with honesty. So having the out-of-body experience is not necessarily, being in a dream and seeing yourself floating. No, because you have to come back to life. You have to come back to the artist, the co-creator. And this is what we do. One moment that we begin witnessing ourselves, seeing how we think, is listening to our program. And if we don't like it, that's what we have to change. And we have to change not because of anybody else, for ourselves. And life is too short. My grandmother said to me once, I have friends who have died fighting, not being happy with one another because they're not happy with themselves. Son, you are young. You have everything in your life right now. It's time to really serve and not believe any more lies, because the life cannot live where the truth it is. And the truth is your honesty, not from an ego point of view, not for what you want them people to see, how you're living in everyday life, because in that moment you will feel the gratitude. And just imagine, children they will be forgiven by the parents no matter what. And that's the point of view of the Creator, the mother. They love all the children no matter what they do. Imagine if we can totally live like them, seeing our brothers and sisters and forgive them no matter what they do. And this is the point that there's no forgiveness to forgive anymore, because we're forgiving the poison and the habits that comes as humanity for generations and generations. We're breaking the dream. We're not taking them personal anymore. We just see them as we see ourselves when we were looking for help. And sometimes we're stuck in that dream. And being honest and saying, I want to change, it will help you change. It's like my brother speaks in the conferences about a show he saw with Oprah Winfrey and Robert Downey Jr. They were interviewing one another, I believe. And Oprah asked Robert Downey, so how difficult was it to leave drugs and to go straight forward? And he goes, it was very easy. And she goes, what do you mean it was very easy? You went to like probably 7 or 10 more rehabs. How can you say it was easy? It's because all those times I did it for somebody else. But the moment that I did it for myself, I knew I couldn't live for myself. I wanted to change. And this is exactly with ourselves, to stop the sabotage, to stop our own creation, because I know the greatest artists, musicians and artists who paint and do the most beautiful art, but then when they finish, they sabotage themselves. They say they're not good. They're going to be judged. And I say, this is what we have to change, is to be, grateful to give birth, And my mother would tell you this, they give birth no matter how the child turns out. He just loves that child. It's our creation too. And when the moment that we, begin really respecting the love of our life, that auto-sabotage is going to end.
Yes, so true. And Don Miguel, when you talked earlier about your daily practice, this practice of gratitude and generosity, giving and receiving, loving, I'm going to guess that's what you would come to when you talk where you're talking to people that would say they experience self-sabotage?
Well, yes. Some of the practice that I used to do with people is I used to put them in front of a mirror, and it's like when you go to the Alcoholics Anonymous, when they start, they say, I'm an alcoholic, and then they start sharing all what they do. Well, when I put them in the mirrors, I ask them to say first their name. I am, whatever name. And then say, I am a predator. And I sabotage myself by doing this and this and this. I hurt myself with our emotions. In that way they can see that it's really our mind, the one who create all those beliefs that go against ourselves.
Miguel, I think there we go. Now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you just for a second.
Oh, yes. There's that part that are really going against ourselves. When we see be impeccable with the word, impeccability means without sin. Well, the sin that we do really is to go against ourselves, which means to sabotage ourselves. And we do it because we don't have the awareness, because we don't know. It's like when Jose says, please forgive me, I didn't know what I did. Then when we see ourselves as that predator, or can see everything that we do against ourselves, and we do it without knowing. We didn't know. But once we have that awareness, then we really can forgive ourselves and stop doing it. It's just like what Jose says, that in the rehab, it only works when you really want to do it. But it should be because somebody else asked you to do it, or because you have pressure to do it. You're really doing it not because it's what you want, but because you have to. And this is because we don't have that awareness. But as soon we have the awareness of what we do against ourselves, we stop doing it. Because forgiveness is not about to hurt ourselves more and have remorse or whatever. No, it's just an act of awareness to see what we are doing and to stop doing it. Because we don't want to sabotage ourselves any longer. And this is, we can say, an act of generosity with ourselves and an act of gratitude because we have the awareness. Once we have the awareness and we really love ourselves, then right away it changes into generosity and we stop hurting ourselves because now we love ourselves. We recover something that we lost a long time ago, which is self-love, self-respect. And the result is that we have that peace, that inner peace that we all deserve. But we don't have that inner peace because we sabotage ourselves with all those ideas, with all that knowledge.
So beautiful, and both you and Don Jose brought in the aspect of unconditional forgiveness and tied it to mothers. And isn't that perfect with Mother's Day here just around the corner? We've got a hard stop right at 9:30 Pacific time because these are recorded sessions. So we've got about 8 minutes, and I want to allow a couple minutes at the end to say a few things. So Don Miguel and Don Jose, just in the space of about 5 minutes, these ways that we can bring the beauty of oneness and heaven on earth into our significant other relationship and parenting and the workplace and as a leader. You all have talked about that a little bit already, but are there key things you might share with our listeners?
Well,
yes, go ahead.
Well, kids listen not what we say to them, see how we act, and they learn from that. So the moment that we begin acting, in a responsible way, being more awareness in what we do in our creation, and just being our authentic self, that creates a ripple. That creates a ripple, of whatever message you want to give in. Because, we are messengers. The question is what kind of message we're giving. And when we are aware of that, we can totally be aware of our ripples.
Well,
absolutely.
I think the key is one word, and is respect. And respect always begins with yourself. Like Jose says, you cannot give what you don't have. Then when you respect yourself, you respect your own story. You live in peace with yourself. With that respect, now you can give it to your beloved. Then you can respect his or her story and just accept your beloved the way he or she is. And you will have the respect of your beloved also. And then you have a peace in between that beautiful relationship. That respect is the most important part of love. Then when we decide to be in a relationship, what is extremely important is to be authentic, to be what you are, and to see the other person the way that person is, and not to try to change them. You fall in love with someone because the way that person is. When you want to change that person, in that moment you stop respecting, because now you have the need to control. We want to control, but we don't want to be controlled. And we can see that without respect, a world of control just begins and will escalate until the moment that couple cannot stay together any longer. But respect is really the key to stay with somebody for as long as we can. And of course, we do that when we love.
So simple, isn't it? But so profound, too, this bringing it back to respect. Beautiful. And, of course, I can see the applications as we talk about, obviously, the significant other, but the children. And how about workplace? And actually, I guess we've just got about 2 minutes, so I'm not sure I should open up a big question here at this point. Gosh, let me share. I'm just breathing into the wisdom, so many profound things that you've both shared, Don Miguel and Don Jose, and maybe unknowingly you've brought in Mother's Day messages too, just of how mothers are such an example of forgiveness and of oneness, just in the way they love unconditionally and forgive unconditionally. It's mothers are wonderful examples of oneness. I'm sure that must be why Mother's Day is right in the middle of this Living in Oneness Summit, which wasn't planned, because Mother's Day it could be called Oneness Day, really, because they're so just full of love and that they spill over on their family. Let me just share some things here as we sort of count this down. Of course, I'm going to get to huge thank yous, but I want to share, as I did at the beginning, that I think the proof is in the pudding when we talk to spiritual authors. There's so many processes, and of course they're all endeavoring to live it. And many of them, all of the people we have on this program, we feel are so authentic and just bring so much value to us and humanity's team, and I believe to our listeners. Don Miguel and Don Jose, once again, if you've been involved in programs with them, you feel it, just as I think you did probably during the hour. They are very authentic. They live their practices, and which I think proves their tools, at least in my view. So these 5 practices, I think, are incredible spiritual tools for living in oneness, which is the whole theme of this summit. So I just want to invite you to read their books if you haven't. Be sure to go to their event page if you're interested in these practices, because they are offering some substantial discounts on their lessons and their retreats. And again, I'm going to come back to thanking them. I want to just ask them, though, what web address can people go to, Don Miguel, to learn more about your family and your courses?
Well, obviously, they can come into our web. And something new that I'm doing right now is what I call Agreements for Life, which is a program of 30 days where I show a 7-minute video and following by a prayer and some exercises. And we're going to Teotihuacan with Jose. Jose is leading this group to Teotihuacan, which is the place where human awakening becomes God. And it's a great experience that Jose created there. And I will be part of the case of honor, I guess.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And I want to also just share 2 quick reminders. When you're on that event page to look at their programs, do post your questions, comments, and inspirations. Also, on the livinginone.com site, you'll see there are free 48-hour replays for you and your family. And if there's just too much wisdom to try and capture, there is this $100 discount on the upgrade. So that's the second one over at the bottom. Upgrades, there's a $100 discount